One of the major problems with our immigration system has been birthright citizenship. And one of Trump's goals during this presidency was to somehow end birthright citizenship, as it's caused a horrible incentive structure. And he did one of the things that he did to try to do this was sign an executive order at the very start of his term to end birthright citizenship and protect the citizens of the United States. But that executive order got challenged by so many lower courts, and all of them have rebuffed it and said it's unconstitutional for Trump to do this. But now, the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, has actually agreed to review the executive order. And this is a major win for Donald Trump, because the Supreme Court is currently in an interesting position where it's mainly conservative. Currently, there's 3 justices that are more liberals and appointed by Democrats, and there's 6 justices appointed by Republicans and Donald Trump. So they have an interesting makeup of the court to where it could actually rule on a case like this and actually support Donald Trump. And that would actually be incredibly good for our immigration system. As right now, birthright citizenship has caused tons of issues. And one of the issues with birthright citizenship is that whenever you have a birthright citizenship type thing, you'll get people wanting to come to America whenever they're pregnant. And they'll just come to America, have the child there. And then because now they have a child that's a U.S. citizen, and that we can't kick out that child because, first of all, they're a U.S. citizen now. It causes there to be, it makes it so the mother and the parents actually stay a lot of the time. And also, it makes it so they keep staying in the country even though they're illegal. They enter the country illegally. They're not supposed to be here. So with the birthright citizenship, it has created a horrible incentive for illegal immigrants to enter this country. And that's why we see a lot of immigration here. It's because we have the birthright citizenship. And that's why I see particularly a lot of illegal immigration coming here. And it's particularly bad with that. So if we got rid of this incentive, there'd be less immigration. And it would make it a lot easier for citizens that have been here, that are actually here, that are here lawfully, are the ones in the country and not the ones that are legally entered to exploit this loophole within our Constitution. And I actually think this would be a great move if the Supreme Court actually ended up doing the removing birthright citizenship. But the sad thing is that there's a limited chance of that actually happening. And even though we have an extremely conservative Supreme Court right now. And the reason is that it has a massive long-term precedence all the way back to when the 14th Amendment was actually put into the Constitution. And that's probably why they won't rule on it, but hopefully they do. And I really want it. And I think this is and I think they might actually do it because the reasoning within for removing the birthright citizenship is within the amendment itself. So let's look at the amendment right now. This is the 14th Amendment, and we're looking at the Section 1 because that regards citizenship. So all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce laws shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction of the equal protection of the laws. So particularly where they're saying the birthright citizenship part is the part on the top, the first part of Section 1. All persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And what Trump's arguing here, and what a lot of conservatives argue with this to end birthright citizenship, is that the illegal immigrants are not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. They came in here illegally. They're not actually citizens. They aren't under any law. They are rogue members of a foreign state that are in the country. So, that's their argument here. And I think that's actually a pretty valid argument. Because when you're illegal immigrants, the parents are not subject to the jurisdiction. Even though they may be in here, they have entered illegally. They're not citizens. They're not subject to the Constitution. They're not subject to the laws of the land. So, this is actually a very valid reason, and I think it might actually go through, although I think it might not, even with a conservative Supreme Court. And if it does, that's a major win for immigration, and particularly against illegal immigration and just immigration in general, as it then results in less people actually coming to the country from the perverse incentive of actually getting a child and having a child in the country, and that child becoming a citizen. And this will end up resulting in less illegal immigration as it closes the loophole for that. Then it also might shore up national security. So with the actual citizenship, when you gain citizenship, if you're actually born in the U.S., with that happening, you can also get members of foreign countries. They could have like a Chinese agent that's pregnant, come to the U.S., have a child in the U.S., go back to China, and then they'll have a member of the U.S. citizenry as a Chinese, as also a member of the Chinese government. And that would not be good for the U.S. It ruins national security, as now we have someone that's in our country that is actively against the American people and the American Constitution. So, it's very possible for that to happen, and it could happen. So, this would also help shore up national security in a way, as we're no longer required to let people in and required citizens of foreign nations to stay whenever they actually have a child in the country. So having this happen is a major win. Also, it results in less anti-American sentiment overall, because a lot of immigrants that come here that come here through this loophole and have a child, then they have members that they'll have citizens. They're citizens, but they're also citizens of a foreign nation, and they're not loyal to the U.S. in the first place. So it could be from Mexico, and they could be not supportive of the U.S. It could be from Cuba. It could be from any country. It could be from Nigeria. It could be from pretty much any country. It could be even from an immigrant from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel, or Iran. All these examples are people that we don't want in. Yet, if they come over here and they're members of those countries, and they come in here and they're pregnant and then they have a child, then they become a citizen. And that's not good for national security. And it's not good for keeping up Americans, pro-American sentiments, which is strongly needed in this country right now, as there's a lot of sentiments within this nation that's anti-American and anti the Constitution and our form of government. You can see that with the increasing presence of the left, particularly with the groups of people that are supporting of foreign nations with their own money. For example, there was this in Minnesota. There was a group of Somali people from Somalia that ended up defrauding, and there was a lot of fraud, not just a little, a lot of fraud. So that around $1 billion US dollars ended up being sent to Somalia and the terrorist group that runs that country. So you get, with these amount of people that are actually not from this country coming in, it causes there to be a whole bunch of issues with them stealing money, them not being pro-America, them sending money to foreign nations, and even to people that are actively on the terrorist list. So it's not good for America to have this birthright citizenship. Another thing with this birthright citizenship, America's one of the only nations that has birthright citizenship. I believe it's the only. But it's one of the only nations that have a birthright citizenship. No other country does this. And you can see why, as they've seen many social issues from it. So, the 14th Amendment, so I actually think the Supreme Court should, I think that it would be great if they ended a birthright citizenship. It would be awesome. Now the question is, once they end birthright citizenship, what would happen? Would any citizen that's born to illegal parents before the executive order and before the executive order happens still be citizens? And I think they probably will. But once you have this, once they strike down birthright citizenship, then we'll get there'll be less in the future. There won't be as many people coming in and having the incentive to come in. So this happening would be great. And they might not. As I think the jurisdiction, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that reason and that provision within the 14th Amendment, I think it's valid that they're not actually subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And the Supreme Court could strike it down simply from that. But then again, there's also this long-term precedent that's set all the way back to when the 14th Amendment was originally put into the Constitution. And they might continue to follow that precedent. Because some of the justices have been shown to not always support what Donald Trump does. And I think it's likely that they might not. But hopefully they do. That would be the best for America and best for the overall citizenry of America right now. And hopefully they do it. And if it does, it's a major, major win for Trump and an America first. But if they don't, then it's a major loss. But Trump will continue to do stuff that will continue to limit immigration, even stuff that's, even though he can't limit birthright citizenship. But hopefully they do actually rule on this and remove it, because that would be the best thing, one of the best things that would happen during Trump presidency if that happened. So anyway, thanks to you all for listening. Thanks everyone for listening, and I'll see you next time.